Hello everyone, Simon here from High Playing Games. Hope you're all having a grand weekend. I've just caught up with the Formula E races this weekend, so I thought what better time after having some alcohol to join on and do some Formula 2 championships, especially now that my voice appears to have hit puberty 20 years too late, and essentially I've had a few bits to drink here, so that obviously increases my ability to drive. Seems to with definitely zero anyway. So, nothing too exciting. We're off to Hungary. If anyone's got any comments or anything, please drop them down in the comments below as we go live. If not, I'll chat to you after the broadcast, because I know a few people pop it in afterwards. Oh, thank you, Demo Reborn, version 1.01, update installation. So that's the order of everything so far. Well done, Makino, now with 1 point. Just the two Tridents. Nico Kari without any points. So let's continue on. Excuse me. I am toying with the idea, actually. In fact, yes, I am. I'm going to put the AI up to 90. This can only go horribly wrong. So, as always, one shot qualifying. I've done no practice beforehand. Sprint follows feature, obviously. Nothing exciting to there. Hello, Lord Bowser. That is an amazing username, by the way. I have a friend whose surname is Brewster, and I always call him Bowser.
So you can feel the excitement starting to ramp up here in Hungary, where the preparations are almost complete for the Formula 2 qualifying session.
Nice knot puzzle. Someone's been sailing. Okay. So what's it like? It's staying dry throughout, which is just as well. Thank you, that's funny. Ah, no, you're very welcome. Right, so if you... apparently it says that you're not supposed to be able to transfer over the car setups between F1 and F2 anymore, but it still does. So there's my wings. Worthwhile just noting down if anyone needs setups. I pretty much do this always with the transmission because it's so on the throttle with what you do. There's my suspension. Suspension 2, the revenge. Brake bias. Most of the other tracks are more to the rear, actually. And Hungary, I do ruin the tyres around here, but you need it to get around the corners, so I will leave that as that. We have put the AI up a bit, which means I'll be qualifying towards the back. I don't think Kari will be getting pole, thank you. And as this is my first lap, immediately I expect this to go horribly wrong. And as a result of the fact that I chat and drive, as opposed to everyone else who doesn't seem to do so and makes edited videos like proper professional YouTubers, I will have rewinds on. I'm actually quite pleased with this so far. I'm not normally very good round Hungary. It doesn't suit my driving particularly well because of how flowy the corners are. When I drive this in R Factor and R Factor 2, I'm miserable. That being said, when I do sim race, most people seem to retire out of the Hungarian Grand Prix, maybe because it's difficult for everyone. And normally I can sneak through and pick up a top 15 out of a grid of 30. Still last, it doesn't matter. Alright, I'm really pleased with that lap. Clearly alcohol works. Roberto Merry and his merry man.
So qualifying is complete and we're all set for an exciting race tomorrow. Your top three are Norris, Merry and Nicholas Latifi. With qualifying complete, all that remains is the main event. We'll be live and uninterrupted for the feature race tomorrow, so make sure you join us then.
And Markelov has signed back on for HWA for Formula 2 next year, so that's good to see our favourite Markelov back. This game hates George Russell. He won the championship last year. Why do you keep putting him at the back of the grid? It doesn't like camera much this year either, although in my other runs of this game it does. So, lol. I'll be very interested to see how this transpires in the race. There's also a part of me that thinks an alternate tyre strategy could be good here.
Here is the grid for today's race, which will be starting shortly. A fantastic effort from Lando Norris yesterday puts him on pole position, and it's Roberto Merry in P2. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Latifi, De Vries, Louis Delatraz, and Markelov, Aitken, Galeo, Fukuzumi, Maximilian Gunter, Giotto, Cuoco, Alexander Albon, and Sete Camara. Makino, Russell, Boccalacci, and Arjun Maini. Lorandi and Nico Kari completes the grid. And with lights out just moments away, it's time to go down to the track.
Woo! It's quite interesting actually that Gunter was a mid runner in F2 and is now doing very well in FE.
You should have some space going into the first corner, so try to keep it tidy.
I think that gives a lot of the F2 grid a bit of a bump actually, but particularly with Nick De Vries doing so well in yesterday's race. And today's, to be fair, that's just happened in Formula A. Do you know what? I will stay on the normal strategy. Because I have a funny feeling we might lose a wing. It's me after all. Plus I'm always horrific off the line. No Aitken. Where is he? Where is De Vries? Is he along? Ah, okay. Ah! Oh, this car feels heavy. It's like me after a takeaway. Ah! That was terrible. So was that. And that.
Okay, we're through the start phase. Now let's build on it.
Find an apex, Simon. You'll get there eventually. Okay, now we're on it. Norris is well ahead. Bit of a worry. Oh, Nicholas. Oh, this is horrific. This is like IndyCar versions of track limits. I'm so sorry. caught that outside curve there. I thought we was going round. Uh-oh. No. Not the chips. This extra 5% of difficulty is proving its nerve. Okay, Dares is on. Oh, we've got no Dares. Thanks, game. Unhelpful. Ha!
Okay, good work. Great pass.
And it was clean. Which is more than can be said for my language. This video's not for kids. Hashtag copper. Or coper, whatever the bloody hell it's supposed to be. Right. Louis Delatraz, I'm coming for you. Hopefully Norris is not too far up the road.
We're approaching the pit window. You'll be on the mediums.
Oh wow. Nope. Okay. Stop hitting that inside curve because it takes the car round. Ah, hate that corner. Okay. Well, whilst we've got Nick DeFree sniffing around our anus, worthwhile talking about FE and the fact that he has done a pretty damn good job as a rookie over the first weekend.
Careful on the tyres. Our data is showing some wear. Most likely you'll be able to feel it.
As it had to be said, did the Mercedes and Porsche teams... Shit. He's coming through, isn't he? Yep. Can we hang on around the outside? Yes, we can. Whew. Yeah, with Mercedes and crumbs, particularly doing very well, I'll be a bit upset if Stoffel Van Dorn, who I've not seen the championship standings, but I have a funny suspicion he might actually be leading the championship. If Mercedes come in and win Formula E on their first go, I will be like 50-50 between crying in like how dare they, but also in complete admiration as well. It's one of those weird awkward like half and halves.
In this lap, push
Really?
now.
53% I guess. Oh, that's deep again. Ah, no! We didn't touch. Oh, we did there though. Oh, that was cheeky from me. Sorry. It was very K-Mag. Oh, Markov got through as well. Interesting. Okay. Oh, shit.
Box this lap, please.
Ah, shit. Sorry, I went down to I was too busy reading your comment, Manor, and I forgot that I was driving. Let me have a swig of alcohol. Hi, Manor. I hope you are well. Ah. Oh yeah, the tyres have gone right off. Stop it! Markelov, no! Now, are we going to end up getting caught up in the bloody pit lane? Yep. Of course we are. Hello, Bowser. All good, did I miss much carnage? No, not really. I've turned up the difficulty though, because I won the last few rounds, haven't I? So I've put it from, it was on 85, I've put it up to 90, which worries me somewhat. And I have been schooled somewhat. Oh, Delatraz really lost out in that pit stop round, considering the gap that he had over me before we came in. So that makes me think that Lando Norris will absolutely have the lead of this race, even though he's gone a lap longer on those tyres. So no, all you've missed so far is me abusing track limits because this car handles like me after a takeaway. Like that. Someone gave me the biryani. And I've been trying to talk about Formula E's races, but this track is quite full on, and I'm always in a battle, so it's been a bit tricky to do so.
Luca is in the pits. Luca in the pits.
Talking of Formula E though, my god, that Idiria track is ridiculously rubbish. Like, there is no room to overtake. Every time we started to get some overtaking, it was normally pushing someone in the wall. I don't class that as, like, I enjoy Formula E, but I don't particularly class that as quote-unquote good racing. Oh, we can actually get everyone out. I'm sorry, Louis! Oh, I think I've gone deep dish. No, I'm okay. Yes! Alright, let's go after the 2020 Williams driver. When will they announce that? Scabby Dabby, I'd imagine. Driver in front.
Okay, gap ahead is 31.6 seconds. They're on
What?
fresh mediums.
Jeff, are you drunk, mate? Yeah, see, look at how much time we lost against Latifi and Norris because we pitted on the first lap, not the second one. So then you get caught up in all of the AI stopping and starting. I know the game's improved that, and it's better than what it was. It's still not great though. Ah! I have no idea what happened there. Right, rough. Markolov may well have. I hope Latifi proves me wrong, but I'm not expecting much from him in F1. Agree. I think it will be interesting to see which Canadian is worse. And I suspect it's Latifi, not Stroll. Oh, I'm too fat on the accelerator. I'm really sorry, Louis. And I know that's cheeky of me, and I'm K-magging it, but I don't care. I've had too much cider. Ah! But no, I'm not expecting much from Latifi. And the reason why I'm not as well, so there's several reasons. Firstly, I think his pace is way too erratic. Again, Stroll-esque. Sometimes Stroll will just throw something out of the bag and you're like, where the hell did that come from for 5 years? But also, like, if I go back to, I think it's 2017, and to be fair, 2018 as well to some extent, he was nowhere in the championship. Because he took too long to get used to the cars. And so F1 is not kind to drivers who aren't up to speed straight away. So I think he'll spend too long getting up to terms with 2020. Russell will have the legs on him. I just think it will be an absolute disaster. Stroll has the worst eyebrows. I will get the rest of that comment in a minute. I think Lance Stroll would have, once he's finished with his career, I feel like he has an entire like post-racing career of advertising just for men. But like eyebrow care, and where I work in London, on the tube, every tube has a Belgravia Centre hair restoration advert on. And I could just see him being like, hey, did you realise that actually I've been wearing a massive badger wig for the last 30 years of my life? If there was another Formula 2 driver I'd like to bring on up, I'd be much more interested to see... I don't know, who would I be interested to see? I'd quite like Sergio set a camera up actually into F1. I think he'd be hilarious because depending on how much longer Kvyat gets to stay in Formula 1, we need someone who'll be busy punting everyone off but also being fast. I think Delatrez would be good in F1. I'd also like to see Markolov have a go in an F1 car, but my worry with Markolov is that he's not set the world alight in Super Formula, and I really hoped that he would. And that's kind of made me think, oh no, now he's just a Formula 2 specialist, which is fine, but... yeah, not grand. I don't want Mick Schumacher in F1 yet. I don't think he's proved himself yet. He will get there because of the name, but the only thing I will say is that he is clearly much more talented than Giuliano Alesi. If we're playing the Sons of Formula One drivers, I think Giuliano Alesi is not actually very good at all. And he's only got to Formula 2 because of his name. Come on, Delatraz, hold him off. But who knows how much of F2 is actually like a real indicator of F1 anymore? Because the formulas feel so fundamentally different. I don't think the FIA do a very good job of preparing like the step between formulas. They're like, oh wow, now we've got DRS. Wow. But fundamentally the cars are different. The tyres are made up in a completely different way of working. I think that's a lot of why drivers like Jolyon Palmer, to some extent maybe Nick de Vries, but there's like an era of Formula 2 drivers that are all like just missing from F1 and around that era because it was so misaligned that anyone that got to Formula 1 couldn't then hack it because it's completely different formula-wise.
Our teammate by 5.2 seconds.
Well, that's great. I was hoping I'd catch down Latifi, but clearly not. I think we're going to have to just cling on for third. Oh, Christ, Simon. Track limits! Who else has failed despite being an F2 champion? Well, Davide Valsecchi actually is another good example. Was just left hanging by Renault, who are currently doing exactly the same with Jack Aitken, who is there for social media likes, not his driving ability. And they'll do the same, I think, with Guan Yu Zhu, who I think is a revelation. And I loved his driving in Renault 3.5 in 2018. And so I'm really glad that he's doing well in Formula 2. We're gonna get bombed! Is that all the tyres are? I thought they'd be much worse than that. It feels much worse than that. Come on! Perfect! Okay. Yeah, I agree. I think Stroll has become very, very adequate indeed. I still don't think Daddy's pockets are big enough to get them a world championship. Racing Point are very much an enigma for me because for the 2021 regulations, whenever you get a new regulation, you get a much bigger field spread. And I was kind of hoping that I'd really see the roots of some kind of step forward with all of the money that's being invested in. And I wonder, excuse me, if they've kind of gone, screw 2020, let's all just go straight to 2021. A bit like most F1 fans that I talk to. They're just like, is it not 2021 yet, please?
Expect to see some rain about 10 to 15 minutes from now.
What? That's okay, we've only got 5 laps. The rain can come in 10 minutes, I don't care. I think next year actually could be a really, really boom time for Formula One because of how close the grid will be. Mainly because if you aren't at the front end of the field and challenging for points all the time, it's picturing on the podium. I'd expect a penalty for track limits if I drove like this in real life. But yeah, I can see a bit like how in 2008 and 2009 the F1 field was like you could cover the entire like front to back of the grid within like 1.5 seconds. Even when Force India were like the back of the grid team, they were still qualifying just like 1.8, 1.9 off the pace, which will be, I think, where Williams will end up being. But I can just see like the grid being really, really close. I was watching some stuff from 1997 actually yesterday. I had it on in the background whilst I was doing some work, and that for me was another boom season because of how close the grid was then as well. Only then we had reliability failures. I kind of miss. No, 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 no! Okay, I think we got away with that. So yeah, I don't know if anyone watched the Formula E race. I was most intrigued and very happy of it. The cars were great in 97. Thank you. Hello, John. Hope you're well. I loved the 1997 season. The beauty of that was that those cars looked absolutely gorgeous, and pointy and aggressive, but sleek with like minimal lines, if that makes sense, in the aerodynamics. And then it was the introduction of Bridgestone against Goodyear, so you had the tyre war, and that because it was like, oh shit, come back to me, child. Ah! Because it was kind of like the second half of the grid were on Bridgestones. If Bridgestone bought a better tyre, it would completely muck up the racing order. Particularly when you had Panis before he broke his legs in the Prost, doing fantastic stuff. The occasional Stewart from Barrichello and Magnussen popping out. Hill later on in the season. I was watching, what was it? It was uploaded onto the Variety Network YouTube channel. Some guy who I think worked at ITV, because he's got loads of like really random game shows and stuff that were aired on ITV in like the 90s and early 2000s. But he uploads quite a lot of Formula One stuff. And it was the 97 Japanese Grand Prix. The one where Schumacher held up Hakkinen and he went round, and Irvine went round the pair of them through the S's. Amazing. And the entire field, from like Frentzen in 5th all the way back to...
Flag. We're racing again.
Oh, that's a blue card chopping out. Don't know who that is.
3.7 seconds.
But all the way back to like Marquez and Salo at the back of the field. You're all just in a massive line still after like 10 laps. Ah, poor Albon. I was like, yes, this is the thing, stuff that I miss. But like the order is all jumbled and you didn't know what was going on from race to race, and that's what I kind of miss. And we've got that now in the midfield. Be nice to have that across the board, if possible. I don't mind there being like a general order of structure of teams, so long as there's ways to kind of have a peak and a trough. Which is why I'd be really, really... I'd like to see F1 races where you have to run all 3 compounds in the race for a minimum of like 5 laps each. Oh, and before I forget, John, I don't know if you are on Facebook, but there is an amazing Facebook group full of loads of old and current F1 mechanics, and it's tests of F1. And someone was just recently putting up loads and loads of good stuff of the 97 Prost, actually, which is why it popped into my head. Come on, can we do it? Ah! Yes! But you also get to see like loads and loads of... Oh, there's a bit of wing there. You also get to see like really random... like test drivers who you didn't even know was doing tests. Like someone posted up loads of stuff of Alan McNish doing a test for Benetton at like 1991, and I'd had no idea. And then you're like, God, 11 or 12 years later, he finally gets his debut for Toyota. And you're like, wow. Ah, shit. Yeah, no worries. Wow, this game's love fest for Norris continues as he wins yet another race. Ah! Latifi is going to be in second. I think I'm going to grab the podium. Third, yes. Just. Whew. That was hard fought.
Yes, 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 we're on the podium. Good job this weekend. Great drive. Thank you.
A great win then for the Carlin team today.
Rumour has it they're sticking Formula 3 cars in the next edition of F1.
I think they kept a cool head. That's why they won today. Smooth,
Okay.
steady.
Let's have a look at the comments just whilst this plays out.
Calmly and professionally. That's what let them focus on getting the best out everything else. The car, the strategy. They managed to keep out of trouble the whole way around.
Oh, cider required. But also like a radio ban in quali, says Mena.
It's time for the podium.
I know they need the radio for the race, but in quali it'd make more use. Yes, I agree.
It was a great win, and it means a great deal to this team.
Well, I'd also like to see much more. I don't mind the fact that drivers have to be technical on the steering wheel and doing more with knobs and twiddles. Know me, I like a good knob. But what I'd like it is to not be engineered through the engineer. I think that the driver not only should be driving with the skill itself, but also be able to have the ability to change stuff on the fly, knowing why they've changed something.
Lando Norris, who extends his advantage at the top of the championship. And so, driver of the
Christ,
day,
he does,
then,
doesn't he?
Davide Valsecchi, who do you think
Shit.
you'd go for?
Well, he had a great drive today. Somewhat unexpected, baby. But I'm going for Sergio Sette Camera. Quick, clean and in control. It was everything you could ask for.
And here's how things are shaping up in the Teams Championship. Carlin have extended their lead at the top of the standings. Goodbye for now then, but we really are just getting started. Make sure you join us again for
sprint
Lights
race
Out
coming up.
tomorrow.
Interesting stuff. It hates George Russell. Max Gunther has got the reverse grid ahead of our teammate. This is going to have to be where we try and claw back in some points on the old Norrie. And it was just me. Causing shitstorms everywhere. Standing wise, Norris now on the 200. Oh, we're 20 behind. Annoying. Markelov moves ahead of camera. Latifi doing well. Delatraz and Gunther get more points. No other particular changes there. And Carlin are redonkulously out in front. Let's advance through. Also, the grid is unconfirmed, but who are your early tips for F2 title contention next year? See, I'd be very tempted to say Luca Giotto, Guan Yu Zhu. Delatraz if you get some luck.
The top 8 from yesterday's race to set the grid for the sprint race here today, and the drivers are almost ready on the grid down below.
Grand. I think it's going to be really interesting next year because...
Okay, the run into turn 1 isn't too long, so the pack will be bunched up. Take care.
Depending how HWA get on, Markelov could be a really interesting throw-in for that as well. There's lots of drivers who I think are at like the 90%, missing the last 10% to be like a... I think that they would definitely be up for it. But I'd be very interested to see how Guan Yu Zhu gets on because I've been championing him for a few years. And I don't know if Robert Schwartzman is coming up to F2. But if he is, I would be really interested to see how he gets on because I'll press play off to start the race after I've made this point actually, because otherwise I'll fat mouth it. So in my opinion, when Schwartzman and Schumacher were teammates, I thought Schwartzman was the better driver until the last part of the season where their car seemed to suddenly just be like massively better than everyone else's out of nowhere. And then Schumacher was getting all of the wins and kind of being a bit more dominant. And then I thought it was really interesting that Schwartzman wanted to go to F3 because actually naturally that's the next progression from Renault 3.5, whereas Schumacher went up into F2. And although it's a step up in power and cars, I think actually it's shown up Schumacher for not being ready for it yet because he wasn't able to dive in and get it on his first go, and he was kind of midfieldy, picked up towards the second half of the season, getting some points, had a lot of bad luck as well, to be fair. Whereas Schwartzman kind of done the next incremental step up and won the formula, which I then think puts him in better stead for then going up into F2 because it's kind of that incremental gain up the ladder instead of making giant strides. And so I'd be really... If Schwartzman is going to F2, and I don't know if he is, I think he would be a really key player in a lot of that, depending on what team he ends up at. Yeah, hope that makes sense. Let's not crash, he says. Oh, that was quick. No, Norris. Ah, yes, Norris. 3 bags full, Norris. Oh, drama. Oh, but that worked out shockingly well. I thought I saw an end plate fall off of Delatraz's car though, so I want to... Oh, crumbs. Pick a gear, Simon. Pick a gear. Alright, the plan here. Gunther, hold everyone up for me, please, so that I can get to the front of the field. And then take a chill pill on the tyres. So make sure that we can get home. Because those tyres were nastier than a street corner hooker by the end of last race. And I'm not going to a clinic on lap 13 of 14. If I can help it. The idea is to go in wide so that I can slingshot out of that corner slightly earlier. And then we're going to get the straight line, hopefully break around the 100-metre mark and get one of them. Ooh, no!
Good job.
Dang it! No Mad Havir for the title then. Methinks no. Right, as it's a replay, I will not overtake because that's not really fair. Raghunathan. It pains me so much that Madhavir Raghunathan has got a point and Tatiana Calderon does not. In real life that wouldn't have happened, or that wouldn't be a valid overtake, but screw it, it's a Codemasters game. We've already done a rewind. I love the fact though that Madhavir Raghunathan has been absolutely dire in every series that he's been in, and yet still is like, that's okay, we'll take the next step of the ladder. And what's really funny is that, like, when you look at him season on season, it's not as if he's really getting any closer to the field either. I don't know how much, like, it costs to to get all that sponsorship going on, but if that's not self-paid and he has genuinely been able to wrangle sponsorship legitimately throughout his entire career, hats off to whoever is his sponsorship boy or girl, because the amount of sexual favours that they must have going on. Either that, or I don't know, maybe he caught Chase Carey in a Nazi sex gimp suit or something, a la Max Mosley, and that is how he's able to continue on. Because at least Calderon keeps up with the rest of the field for the majority of the time. I think she stepped up to F2 too quickly as well. She was solid midfield in F3. Fuck it. Oh, that was harsher than I expected that to be. Sorry, teammate. Good old Campos. Will we see Campos in F1 in 2021? I have a feeling it's going to be no. But seeing Formula E with 24 cars just made me pine for 24 or 26 cars back in F1 again. I really feel like 20 car grids look bare. And that's kind of one of the reasons why I watch F3, is that there are 30 cars out there, and now that we've got the better technology, oh, that was horrible, to show, like, unlike when you had pre-qualifying and then actual qualifying and then 26 cars would get onto the grid in the mid-90s, the problem there was that whoever was the F1 race directors at that time would just sit and watch the McLarens or the Williamses or the Benettons or like Lotuses or whatever going round at the front of the field, and they wouldn't actually bother watching a battle for 14th, even if they were like going absolutely hammer and tongs. Whereas now, I think race directors have got much better at like picking up the fact that the Williamses are battling for the wooden spoon positions. Oh, lock up, lock up. Ah, no. Back out. Your nose does not belong. Well, I don't know if anyone knows if Gunther's actually been penalised for today's FE race. I've not taken a look yet. Otherwise, well done to him to get in second in the race. But particularly when, like, the top... Well, so long as the Ferraris continue to take each other off, I think there's plenty of fun to be had at the front of the field. But if the battles for the top 6 positions aren't going to be getting us wet and ready, then I would much rather... You're going to come across, aren't you? Oh, maybe not. Where are you? There you are. You're going to have better traction, but I've got the inside. Yes! Yes, Queen. What was I trying to say? I've forgotten what I was going to say. Couldn't have been that good. Oh, yeah, sorry. I think viewers are like... We come to see good racing. Whilst it would be nice to see it for the lead, I'm more than happy to watch people bitch slap each other around for 15th and 16th places if it's a good scrap. And be entertained. The stuff that I do where I'm doing sim race racing and commentary, we've kind of learnt the value of that, because quite often the stuff at the front, because they are out front, they are genuinely the quote-unquote fastest and best. Of course Russell's out of the fucking race. This game refuses to let him do well. It's like it's still being investigated. Oh, cool, thank you. When we do sim racing broadcasts and so on and so forth, if we know, there's no point in showing people what's going on at the front if it's static, so we will take a look down towards the back end of the field if there's better battles going on down there, because if you aren't showing the battle that is going on and the closer stuff out on track, people's attention spans are too short, and then they go, oh well, bash. Or they also have, and this is going to be my little tirade on data now. Sorry everyone, I'm getting on my high horse. I've clearly been drinking too much today already. Because we now have access to all of like the live timing data and stuff like that, and you can see like sponsored by AWS coming through as like the new thing to talk about as well. Oh wow, soz Russ. I think the data also kind of removes a lot of the surprise element of stuff to try and explain stuff in a really clinical and critical manner, and I think that diffuses some of the excitement out of the sport. So if you're able to try and get back to something that shows people are going up against each other physically rather than showing a data battle, which I think is much less tangible and exciting to explain and show. Doesn't matter if that's for 15th or 16th versus an aggregate pit stop thing going on. Just my opinion. Ah! Thought I was going off then. Which actually reminds me, if anyone is subscribed to this channel, Apologies. At some point over this weekend, I'm going to be doing lots of weird little bitty live streams, and it's to test out something called Restream.io. And the idea is because YouTube has marked my content as made for kids. Essentially, unless you're subscribed and actively looking for me, you won't necessarily get notifications that my content is going out anywhere. So I'm trying out something called Restream, which lets me stream to YouTube, Twitch, Mixer, and loads of other stuff all at the same time. It won't work through a PS4 at the minute because I'd need to put my PS4 through my PC, and my PC's too old and dead to cope with that.
That was the fastest lap of the race.
But yeah, apologies if you get lots of random notifications. I'm trying to, if I can do it privately, I will. Oh shit! Shit! No! Can we try that again? Sorry, everyone. Clearly, YouTube just making me angry at the copper problem. And I think it's mostly the racing crowd that... My channel is in like weird segments, so I've got like a crowd that follows me for the racing stuff, a crowd that follows me for PS2 games, and it's that crowd that will be the lot that kind of gets stook. Because all of those videos will no longer be able to be played in playlists and stuff. Stupidly. But I'm going to build out my higherplayinggames.com website over the next month so that you'll be able to access stuff in playlist formats and stuff. But I'm going to build a section on that website which is all about racing. And whilst I'm testing out all of this stuff, I'm going to be going back through all of my old F1 games, and like there's some circuits that have been on the calendar for like the whole 30 years. So what I want to do is like drive a lap of, funny enough, Hungary would be one of them, through like these games, the games on PS3, PS2, old stuff on PC, hopefully going all the way back to like Jeff Crammond's Grand Prix on PC, and I've got a ZX Spectrum with like Nigel Mansell's World Grand Prix Championship from the 1988 season. It's on cassette. It better still work. I've kept those cassettes in very good condition. Oh, hello, to Freeze going for Gunter. Nice. But the idea is to kind of capture the same track and then put it all side by sides in videos over like the 30-year period. Should be quite good. Oh, hang on. I don't know what's going on there. Whoever's just typed in a comment, it's told me that that comment is held for review. I'll have to wait until I'm on a straight and then I'll unhide it.
Starting to see a bit of tyre wear. You shouldn't have too much trouble for the time being, but the grip is going to start falling away.
Show. That's alright, swearing is allowed. This channel is not for kids. Even though YouTube has told me about 600 of my videos are. Thanks. No more revenue. Wide. But we're okay. Right, straight. Could you split your channel so that you have one for kids and one for not? No. Well, yes I could, but the problem is, and it's one of the main, and apologies for getting onto this during a racing stream, although it has boiled my blood for the last week, is that it's not up to me, even though I have to mark my stuff as made for kids or not made for kids. It's ultimately up to that American FTC corporate place as to whether or not they think something is for kids or not. So some of the stuff that gets flagged, like SpongeBob SquarePants games, of me playing through it, I can kind of understand, because obviously kids character, kids game, it doesn't matter that the game is 20 years old and I'm saying like look at a game and thinking about it as a 35-year-old going, my god, this was our childhood, ha 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 ha. The context is missing. And so, yeah, people don't come over. And so even if I decided to split stuff up into kids or not kids, that might be different from what the FTC deems as kids or not kids. So for example, let me think. Actually, that'd be a good one. F1 Race Stars is marked as kids. But I'm playing it as an F1 fan, having a good laugh with people whilst we talk about Formula One. So like, who's right, who's wrong? And my demographics on YouTube for the stats of who watches, my biggest audience is 24 to 35-year-olds, followed by 35 to 45-year-olds, then 18 to 24-year-olds. So in a normal world, I'd be able to say, well, look, this isn't actually... Kids don't care about someone who's not screaming in their ears and PewDiePieing it. I'm too boring for that. Too smutty. I'd rather make cock jokes. But... YouTube's already been too much of a big enough cock to be bothered. Oh, DeFreeze, go away. So yeah, so the idea is basically I'll have to mark quite a lot of stuff as made for kids, but I'm going to build out my website in a way that means that you'll be able to find the stuff that I make. It means that you don't get targeted, or it means you don't get ads that have been paid for to be targeted to certain demographics. You will still get ads in front of the videos, but those are all like, the advertisers are paying like 0.001p because their advert is not really made for any specific audience, which kind of makes the advert a bit pointless. Oh shit, no, DeFreeze, no! So like my YouTube channel is hardly making lots of money, but the money it was making, I was able to start buying camera equipment so I could do pieces to camera. But because 70 to 80% of that revenue will reduce, it just means it will take longer for me to be able to save up to do bits and bobs, which is also annoying. And I'll just have to pay a little bit more of my own money as opposed to YouTube ad revenue to run the websites. Won't stop me doing what I'm doing. And it probably mean that I'll end up pushing Patreon a bit more as well, which is entirely optional but very helpful. And then the last thing I'll say on money, before I get back to racing and stoof, is I am saving up for a big PC upgrade / new PC. I've kind of upgraded bits of my PC, but I've realised that I've left my motherboard behind, and I've not updated my motherboard since 2011. So it's got good RAM and stuff, and a okay-ish graphics card. I think it's 1060 is the thing that it's got. GT 1060, but its motherboard is ridiculously out of whack, so it struggles to keep up with very much. Once I've done and saved up and bought that, I want to start doing a lot more sim racing type stuff from the more sim styled games on PC. Shit. I've taken the piss enough in this race. I felt like that was taking it once too many. Let's see if we can get it back. So yeah, so R Factor, R Factor 2, Race Room. I don't have Assetto Corsa Champione 1.
This is your final lap of the race.
I do have the original Assetto Corsa though. Competition, sorry, not Champione. I know what I meant. Both of them sound like pizzas waiting to happen. And what that will also enable me to do, actually. So, I'm not fast, as you may be able to tell, on sim racing, but I've been commentating on esports since 2008. So, I want to get back into doing that, and maybe if there's the ability for me to broadcast like actual, like small little championships and stuff, and have like High Plane Network as a potential broadcaster for that. That would be quite cool. Ah, hey Roy, I shall look at that comment in a second. Come on, I don't want to get overtaken by the Kentucky Fried Bucket. Yes! Just.
Great job. You've done everything we wanted today.
Wasn't sure what good sim style games are out there.
Incredible win for Campos.
There are a few Scandinavians that would be able to have fun once you get back into sim racing. Yes, Roy. Yes, Roy.
What do you think made the difference here?
I miss the race department RDLMS stuff. 24-hour broadcasts of me falling asleep halfway through. Takeaway bingo. Good times.
If you can do that, if you can gain ground.
I have said to Mike Pittman, who runs simrace.tv, as we go a long way back as well, because I used to do a lot of broadcasts for him. I do owe him some broadcasts where I've been set up to do some stuff, but haven't been able to do it either through PC problems or just the fact that my day job is a nightmare to schedule anything in with. So I will be doing some stuff for simrace.tv once I'm up and running, just to say thank you to them for being patient. But no, definitely some more stuff over here. If you're looking for good sim-style games, I'd definitely recommend checking out Race Room, because it's free.
How things look in the driver's tape. It was not the best weekend for our championship leader, and their advantage at the top.
No, it weren't.
And now, Davide Valsecchi, let me ask you, who is your driver of the day?
I have to give it to Roberto Meri. Was probably one of his best drive of the season, and they was very
Aitken done well.
On to the teams then. We saw a dip in form from the championship leaders today. Their lead has taken
Smeller
a significant
He really did
blow.
lose
After
his
all
front
this drama,
wing.
you'd be mad not to join us for the next race. We hope to see you then.
Ah, still no points for Trident. Yeah, no, Race Room is very good. So the beauty of Race Room is it's like iRacing, but you actually get to keep what you download. I struggle with iRacing, or what I call iRental. We have a long history. But yeah, Race Room is really decent with that. I'd also recommend Automobilista, especially as I'd imagine it will be on heavy discount sale around Christmas time, because Automobilista 2 is coming out in 2020. And I quite like a lot of Riser Studio stuff, actually. They do truck racing, which I appreciate is quite niche. But that game's always down to like £3, and for what you get with it is quite decent. Because they done like a 2017 update that's kind of like a download for free on top, so you kind of get like 2 games for the price of one. The other thing I really like about Race Room is that they incorporated a lot of their touring car stuff into it, and I a sucker for touring car based leagues and championships and stuff like that. So they've got like the Swedish Touring Car Championship. They don't have like an official BTCC one, but there's some really good mods out there. Same for R Factor 1 and 2, to be honest. Because I drive with a controller, not a wheel, I prefer R Factor 1 over 2 because R Factor 2 is so nitpicky on the tyre temperature stuff. When you're driving with a controller, it's really difficult to ever be competitive, essentially, and you just chew through your tyres. So, yes, completely agree, Roy. That was the one I was looking at, WTCC, and TCR definitely in Race Room, great fun. We should get some Race Room stuff going soon. And actually, that's something I need to shout out to you, Roy. We need to get yourself, Ollie, and our other Scandinavian chums together, because now that Steam has remote play, there's an awful lot of stupid mini games that we can now play and get Smithy and the Scandinavians as a show up and running. Right, let's take a quick look at the standings. Nothing too exciting there. So we're 6 points behind Norris. Albon didn't score anything really that weekend, but stays in third ahead of Markolov and co. Good run by Aitken, gets them up to 11. No other changes down there. And everyone's pretty spread out for the top three. It's the Russian Time versus ART versus Prima in our own version of Battle for Fourth in the Constructors, with Charouz and Arden not too far behind. Yes. Cool. Right, well, thank you so much, everyone, for watching and taking part. Hope that was interesting. If you was entertained, please give me a thumbs up. Subscribe, that would be amazing. I'm so sorry, that is about as YouTuber-y as I get. If you really do like what I do, pop over to patreon.com/HigherPlane Network, and you'll find out all of the different websites and bits and bobs that I run all together, where you can help support from $1 a month. Completely optional, but at least you get to kind of see what I'm up to across the board. I'm going to be trying out some restream stuff later on this evening. I'll probably be pissed as a fart. I hope I don't ruin your notifications too much. Cheers all. Bye. Boom, bum, 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 bum.